Hey. Okay, good evening. This is Dr. John Bennett from Miami, Florida. Um, we have the pleasure tonight of having Sagar Patel, MD. He's an ENT resident at Wayne State University in Detroit. He's been using Google Glass for a bit in his residency, and he just got a brand new set of Google Glass today. How fortuitous! He's going to basically take us through unpackaging it and taking us through the anatomy and physiology and maybe some pathology and the uses that he's had. We're also joined with John Hewitt. He's a medical writer from Pennsylvania. So good evening, Sagar, and take it away.
All right, welcome everyone. I just want to say hi to Dr. Bennett and Mr. Hewitt. Thanks for having me. Over at Wayne State University in the Department of Otolaryngology, we've been using Google Glass since January of this year in many different aspects, which we can go through tonight, but we're going to start from the basics. What many of us who consider ourselves users of glass in medicine went through on the first day that we acquired this. So right here is a brand new unopened Google Glass that I just received from Google. It's a product that's by invite only through Google. You can just sign up for the Explorer program and you usually get an invite within a couple of days. It costs $1,500 with plus tax totals to $1,590. If you want to use it in surgery, we highly recommend getting eyewear protection, which costs an extra $60, I believe, to have a clear frame to use it. So I think that definitely should be considered before purchasing these. Otherwise, you won't have any eyewear protection, which, as all surgeons know at least, is a violation of JCO standards. But here we go.
Drum roll. Let me get the drum roll. I got a special thing.
So you open it, and there's a nice piece of wax paper here, which we can take off. And you have your glass right here. This is a white set. Put that on real quick. Underneath that, it gives you little controls for the different options on where the buttons are, which we'll go through in a second. Underneath this packaging, our next layer, we have all the information that Google gives you in the actual box. The rest is all online. A protective case for the actual glass, which is highly recommended. This container is an earpiece that actually connects to the glass in order to get audio through to the actual eardrum. As an ear surgeon, I find the Google Glass to be very intriguing. It uses something called bone-anchored hearing technology. When I first acquired the glass, I was working in a research laboratory with a young man who was born without an ear and could not receive hearing on that side through his eardrum. Oddly enough, his hearing was also on his absent ear was also on the right side. The Google Glass, if it was made with just a regular speaker, he would never be able to use it. Whether you're using this or a speaker, it wouldn't work. Luckily, this young man was able to use it because this uses bone-anchored hearing, where the audio is transmitted through the mastoid bone to the eardrum, and he's probably one of the coolest things I've seen. Was the first person I had try it on, someone who could actually hear, and that was the only thing he could hear because it was bone anchored.
Wow! So the skull acts like an eardrum.
Yep, the skull actually transmits the audio rather than through the air.
Wow!
So it's transmitted through the bone, and that's how the Google Glass technology works. And oddly, he's the perfect person where he could only use this if it was the case. So any other company, which I'm sure there's other companies that we know of that make the similar product, they're probably going to have a speaker to transmit the sound. Because this right here transmits with bone, it actually works for him. So if you're ever using the Google Glass, if you actually put your finger into your ear, you can hear it a lot more clearly because it blocks out ambient noise. But because the glass is transmitting noise through your bone, you can hear it better, which is really interesting.
Good explanation.
This, though, that if you want, you can connect it and use it as a regular earpiece, as an air-anchored also. The two other things it comes with is a connection for power. Oops, fairly stuck in here, but just a regular USB power and on data transmission cables. And finally, one other mini booklet. This is two little pieces that you can put to adjust the place it sits on the nasal bridge, and a little bit more instructions. That's it. That's all it comes with. The rest of it is a learning process that you'll find out on your own as you employ them. So these I cannot use right now as they're uncharged and brand new out of the box. But essentially, just to go through the buttons, there's a button right here on the inside. That's the power button. One button right here.
Okay.
There's a button on the top. That's a camera button that allows you to take pictures by hand. There's a charging and a data transfer port right here. There's a button right here, which I'm not sure what it does. It says glass on it. I've never figured out what it does.
Okay.
All of your controls are done by touching over here on the side. Forward swipe, backward swipe, up swipe, and down swipe. Last but not least, you have a optical area, which is right here. The only direction you can move it is forward and back, forward and back. Okay.
Could you show the swipes again? We couldn't see it because of the banner. Could you lift? Yeah, show us the swipe. What you do when you swipe?
Oh, sorry. So the swipes are simple. It's actually just a flat surface.
Okay.
This is forward swipe, backward swipe, up and down.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Oddly enough, I think it's interesting to note that the camera position is right here and non-adjustable.
Okay.
So I think a lot of surgeons who think, okay, I can use this to have a first-person surgical point of view, don't realize that where my eyes are, if I'm operating, usually you want to operate with your arms at 90 degrees from where you are. That's the technical teaching. If you operate with your arms at 90 degrees, here's where my head is, and my eyes are looking down like this. Right. The glass is actually looking in this direction. So if I'm going around bragging to people that they're watching me do surgery first point of view, that's not necessarily true, because I would have to go like this and aim my eyes up in order for someone else to actually see, which, although that's a nice tool to have, that's not necessarily safe for the patient. So I think that's very important to note that a flaw of this first generation where the camera is not exactly following the eyes from a surgical point of view. Something we learned while using the process, where we thought if I looked right into the patient's mouth that the other person would be able to see what I'm doing, but you actually have to move your head to an uncomfortable, unnatural surgical position for somebody else to see.
Right.
In addition, the prism only moves in one direction. Let me see if I can. So this direction.
Okay.
Which is in parallel with the eyes. It does not move in this up and down in this direction.
Okay.
There's a blink sensor right in here. This is upside down, but you can see it right here underneath my finger.
Right.
I don't exactly know how it works. I can tell when you can blink. Well,
that's useful in autism. Ned Sahan uses that for his autistic patients to monitor their eye motion.
Yeah, there's a ENT surgeon named Tessa Hadlock out of Harvard who's doing a study. When patients unilateral paralysis, facial paralysis, they have an inability to blink their eyes, which of all different side effects of paralysis, that's the most dangerous, as it can lead to corneal ulcerations. So getting the ability to blink is very important. So she's invented a device outside of glass that can essentially note when the contralateral eye blinks, it can cause this eye through electrical stimulation to blink at the same time. So, one concept that we've come up with, haven't really started working on it, and I'm sure someone's going to take the idea and run with it, is to use something similar to Google Glass to mimic that technology so that someone who has facial paralysis and has glasses could utilize that technology without using surgical solutions such as a platinum weight implant to the eyelid to be able to blink simultaneously in both eyes.
Yeah, we had a guy talking about ALS, how eye motion's used to communicate for those patients with that particular part of the glass, the blink sensor, the blink sensor.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay, sorry to interrupt.
I just had a comment. I'm not an ENT, but I used to work at the Kresge Hearing Lab in New Orleans,
Okay.
developing cochlear implants. I'm wondering if somebody has a cochlear implant, can they hook it up to glass instead of using, the other channels?
I mean, obviously, theoretically, it's possible. A cochlear implant, the device that gathers all the data is just a simple computer that's connected post-auricularly. So theoretically, it's possible. In a similar way, I have a personal one of the programmers I'm working with has a personal interest in taking simple medical devices that we use, such as a polysomnography. All it is software with a little bit of hardware. If you can connect that to an iPhone or an Android phone, make the phone computer do the processing, it can work in a similar way. So obviously in this generation, it's not nowhere near close. However, eventually it's possible to have enough computer programming and hardware capability in this to be able to work as a wirelessly transmitted cochlear implant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it just seems like the cochlear implants nowadays are all proprietary. You can do that, but you have to do it their way with their device.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a different topic altogether, but I think one of the big hurdles.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. One of the big hurdles in all development of software for Google Glass, especially in healthcare, is a lack of collaboration. I think there's a lot of companies that would benefit from advancement of the device. Obviously, one of the first boundaries we know of is Hipaa compliance. I'm sure that's been discussed, ad nauseum. However, Hipaa compliance is a major issue that, usually when we see Google act on such concepts, they kind of leave it to an open source concept. However, with Hipaa compliance, it's kind of been monopolized into certain aspects. If you want access to a HIPAA compliant data stream, as of today, I believe there's only one solution, and that's Pristine. You can go to pristine.io to discuss with them prices, but for a product that does not improve your profitability, it's very, very expensive.
Right.
I don't know if I'm legally allowed to quote what the price we were given, but given that it's a just out of beta testing product, we have surgical companies that will come and let us test their devices that are out of beta for free one time. Their company was not willing to work on that level. This stifling of the HIPAA solution is really, really hindering the advancement of the entire industry right now. And in a similar way, when you take electronic medical records and try to make those streamlined, there's no open source collaboration, let's say, amongst different individuals. It's all people trying to create their own applications, from my experience, which is kind of sad, but hopefully one day we get more collaboration.
Well, that's why I like this platform we're using right now, Dr. Patel, because we had a couple of hangouts with programmers and doctors on the same hangout, and they were able to talk to each other, tell each other what they needed, what they wanted, and the problems they were having. Like you mentioned, the position of the camera. I think ideally in the future we'll have engineers sitting down with you right now. We'll have programmers kind of discussing things rather than having you go to their office and make because doctors are busy as hell. It's hard to do. But,
yeah, I think it's more than just that. I've worked with a programmer out here distant in Michigan. Luckily, I'm blessed to have one of our interns who has a PhD in computer programming, written many software applications specifically for medicine. He picked up our other pair of Google Glass and wrote an application in one day. He's literally a genius and can do this easily. So I'm blessed to have that as part of our team. However, some random person, in the middle of nowhere who wants to pick it up and thinks they're going to use it in their practice the next day it's far from the reality. Most of the companies that are there to help you out want to charge you money, and it's all about profit right now and not about advancement and betterment of the field. Obviously, other aspects of medicine, whether you're talking about specialty devices for cardiac care, it is about profit, but there's still an aspect of, here, let me show you what we can do and how this can make your practice better for your patients. On the other hand, this is, from what our experience is, it's mainly been, hey, this is going to be really cool, this is how much you're going to pay, and your patients will think it's cool. There's been no serious practicality amongst the programmers and the physicians in collaboration, in my opinion.
Well, hopefully Google Analyst will help that. Hopefully, but we'll see. At any rate, okay. So you went through the anatomy of the glass. What happened? What kind of problems do you have with the glass? Are there any little bugs they have that commonly occur?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like I said, or like I was telling you guys earlier, this is actually our third and fourth pair of glass that we have here. The other two, Google updates their software. We started with the 12.1 edition of the software for glass, and at the update to, I believe, 16 or 17, both of our glasses crashed and were bricked, in that they wouldn't start up past a startup screen that allowed you to even troubleshoot. It just opened up and wouldn't connect to any internet, so you couldn't even troubleshoot it. Google was kind enough to ship us 2 new ones under the warranty, and we're going to continue working with it. Like I said, I haven't even turned this one on, so hopefully it works, but that was one problem we encountered. Continuing with that, obviously, I think it's been mentioned quite a bit too, but as an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, the reason it's such a great idea is we operate in small, dark cavities, which makes it awesome that other people can see. At the same time, we also need a light to be able to see into those small, dark cavities, and our headlights don't kind of wash out the images that are transmitted, and that's an issue. Last but not least, when we were transmitting data over a 10-minute period, it caused the device to overheat and shut down when it was transmitted for over 10 minutes. So that's an issue also.
Wow.
Okay, as an ENT surgeon, you already mentioned the position of the camera. What things would you change? Ideally, in a perfect world, if you had to design a set of Google Glass for an ENT surgeon, what would you do?
So I think one of the things is at least half of the surgeries we do. I'm going to be specializing in facial plastic surgery. More than half of the surgeries we do require to wear loops. Obviously, as of now, there's no option to have them built in. I can see that happening in the very near future. The simple process, I can see that happening. But you can't wear your surgical loops, which are itself a $1,000 product. With these over them, it doesn't work. So you'd have to have loops built into a lens on this, and that would work perfectly. Very simple problem, very simple solution. But in the ideal world, I'd like to have that ability. And then obviously, like I said, a built-in light into those loops would be absolutely fantastic. And as soon as you can do those both at the same time. The second is creating a way to possibly have a unit that's with the ability to sterilize it. Right now, the software, obviously, it's not created just for surgeons. When you're recording a video, you say, Google, okay, Glass, record a video. It records a 10-second clip. And then it asks you if you would like to continue. There's no voice command to continue. You have to actually swipe, which the pragmatism of wearing something on your head so you don't have to scrub out to look at an image doesn't make sense. You have to do this every time. So, I do the main ability of this is that it's something that's wearable, that you don't have to scrub out, don't have to turn around to look at your computer, because in reality's sake, you can have a computer that can do every single thing this can do minus augmented reality and overlay. And if that's the case, this has to be equivalent to the computer that I'm using and its capabilities. And I do foresee a future in that, but it's not there yet. And I don't blame Google for that. I see the vision they have, and I think it's going to get there. It's just obviously not there yet.
Yeah, that would take the tech of like leap motion. Have you heard of leap motion, where the surgeon can move the images with the hands? Maybe somehow that'll be incorporated to the giving commands to the glass, essentially.
Absolutely, and I mean this is probably more for our more senior listeners out there. But I remember when I had my first mini disc player, and my friend got an iPod, the very first generation. I remember looking at him saying, "What's the point of getting an iPod? It takes you 15 minutes to download one song, whereas my mini disc player can record it off the radio and the exact time it plays." I didn't have the foresight to note that we'd be working with 100 megabyte per second connections, the Apple iStore, and a connection that allows you to use cellular data at the same time. So this is a first generation product. You have to have the insight to see what it will be 5-6 generations from now, as we're seeing with the iPhone 6 compared to the very first generation iPod. And with that vision, I think you can really think widely and brightly about what this is capable of, and then truly appreciate what your possibilities are of the device.
Now you go ahead, John. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if they eventually will make a camera that can, in some sense, move or at least focus to where the eyes are looking at. In the absence of that, though, do you find that you change the way you behave as far as moving your head instead of moving your eyes to look at new things to use the camera?
I mean, the reality of the situation is that you probably do. However, I'd like to say that surgeons using it are acting in their normal manner and not letting it influence anything they do. Do you actually? You don't know. I mean, head position is something that when you're operating, doing a very complex operation, the last thing you're thinking about is my head too low? Is my head too have? And untraining yourself out of that habit for the Google Glass probably wouldn't be wise. So I'd say that people possibly are to that. I would hope that people are operating in their own natural manner. That's the safest for the patient, however.
And not to backtrack, but I was just curious, did Google offer any information as to why the device bricked? I mean, usually you only hear of that if you're doing something like jailbreaking or flashing your own ROMs or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. They didn't offer me anything. You can actually search the error, and there's quite a few reports on it with the same thing. We have two devices. We had to call twice and go through the waiting process both times. When it's like, hey, I have two devices. This is what happened. We had to do them all individually and wait for their team to clear it. But they didn't offer anything. It happened to quite a few people. I mean, to me, it's ironic that I had two devices that happened to both of them during the update. I don't know which one, but it's ironic. But they're claiming that it's not common. But you can search for the error code, and it comes up, and it's happened to other people.
Okay.
Dr. Patel, you're talking mostly about the surgical application and the surgical utility. And I think when I was reading about you, you were saying how much it helped the team communicate.
Absolutely.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
So I'm a surgical resident, and we work as a team. We work as multiple teams to take care of patients in multiple different hospitals. And especially in our specialty, we're kind of spread out amongst different hospitals. It's a surgical subspecialty. So, this is quite a long story, and I want to explain all of it.
Okay.
Back when the 80-hour work week was created, and then back in 2011, the ACGME, which is the Accreditation Council for residents, also limited the number of hours at a time a resident could work. While this makes residents have more energy while they're doing what they're doing and less prone to error, it also increases the number of transitions that a patient undergoes. So one patient will have 3 doctors in a 24-hour period instead of just one. And while that doctor is less tired, as we know through many other aspects of society, a communication is where a lot of mistakes are made. So this transmission of information has become a point of emphasis amongst the ACGME. There needs to be a standardized protocol on how this data of what a patient is, what their status is transmitted. For us, the process used to occur over phone when it wasn't possible to do face-to-face, and the ACGME currently recommends it be done to face-to-face. Now, with something such as Google Glass, our teams are able to discuss the patients face-to-face in a similar way that we're doing a hangout right now. And with the Glass, I'm able to actually introduce the oncoming resident to a patient, show them a wound, let them know what the status of the wound is. That's what we're doing right now. The next generation, the concept is going to be recording the actual wound so that if there's a question about a wound, we can track back and say, okay, let me see what it looked like 4 hours ago. Okay, it's gotten worse or it's gotten better. Let's actually have that as a part of our medical decision making, and that's a future concept. But for now, it's mainly just a communication device, which I think is one of the main things Google entailed it to be. But this is a communication device that, in effect, is making medical error less and is making a difference in improvement in how our patients are taken care of. And I have to highly give credit to Karmanos Hospital, which is Cancer Institute, which is the institute that's allowed us to use this device to do that. Karmanos was more than helpful. We went to multiple hospitals. Some hospitals were not willing to let us use their servers. They were skeptical on the technology, didn't know if it would benefit their patients, and they were, to be quite brash, they were afraid of a new innovation. And that's the way all new technology is. It comes with good and bad, and it takes a true entrepreneur and risk taker like Carmanos to really find the novelty in this concept, and they allowed us to use it, and I think it's really benefited our patients, our Carmanos, and that they're getting better care secondary to what they've offered for us as physicians in taking care of their patients.
Does anybody other than the doctors wear the glass? Do you have nurses?
Not yet. No, not yet. We would like, when we rolled down our project, obviously it was a larger endeavor than we ever thought it would be. We ended up meeting with CEOs, CMOs, CIOs, the chief nursing officers, and I was like, I'm just trying to use something that's a cell phone sitting on my forehead, and it turned out to be a major endeavor. Carmanos was nice enough to allow it, but because we didn't realize what we were getting ourselves into, we wanted to keep it small and pragmatic and leave it at that point.
Yeah, that's what Paul Sotek said. He said it's just like a video camera in the OR.
That's all it is. A lot of the other residents, when I brought it up saying, hey, we're going to use this, the other residents would tell me, why can't I just use my cell phone? And I'm like, you probably could. You're going to get the same quality image, the same concept. However, the difference is that, like I said, this is a first generation, It's the same thing. I said, why can't you just use your mini disc player? The concept is that this 5 generations from now will be everything. It'll be your electronic medical record. It'll be your surgical dictation tool, and it will be your resident transitions of care model.
Okay. Very good. John? John's taking a nap, I think. I don't know where he went. But no, that was, I've talked to a lot of surgeons. John's back. I talked to a lot of surgeons, and that was good to go through the basics of it because it's hard to understand it when you just read about it. And it's certainly helpful to see you moving it around. So, have you seen like patients in the clinic with the glass? Have you tried that at all, or no?
No, we have not. There's a really innovative another company that possibly has been discussed on the show. Augmetics. We were in discussions with them. A review of what the basic discussion of their product was that it was very interesting. Their price was very fair in my opinion.
Okay.
However, it's not yet suited specifically for surgical subspecialties. There's a lot of things that we do that would end up, the glass would take care of 25 to 30% of the clinic work, whereas in a family medicine practice, it would take care of 100% of the clinic work. So for a surgical subspecialty, where a lot of my note is, scopes and things like that I'd have to end up doing myself anyways, it didn't make much sense at this point to pay what same as a family practice doctor was paying. But they said there's an orthopedic surgeon using it, which is also a little bit different than us because we deal with cavities and holes. But I think that's an excellent product, and from what they told me, it seemed very pragmatic, and I think that's something that people should consider.
This question may seem like it's not related to glass, but it is. Do you use Dragon to do your dictations?
That's what we use to do dictations. Yes.
Yeah. How are you pretty good at it, or is there, you have to go over it a lot and spend a lot of time redoing the dictation?
For the most part, I personally just type. I'm part of the generation that had typing classes at school and pretty good typing speeds. For the most part, I just type. I even type my operative notes. Most people don't do that. So for the most part, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but I think everyone who uses it is fairly happy with Dragon.
Oh, okay. Very good. Okay, John, do you have any more questions?
No, that was great to actually see firsthand what the hardware for glass is. A lot of us don't have any ability to get our hands on, so that was great.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, Dr. Patel, any new developments, or if you have that intern wants to come, I don't know if you want to keep that intern under wraps, or keep his name secret.
He's more than welcome to. His name is
Yeah, I would
Bill.
love to have, if you know, ask him if he wants to have a hangout. We'd love to have him.
Absolutely.
Because the more we learn, I think the more progress we'll make, and the more
Right.
open things will be, and certainly things will move forward.
Well,
So,
Dr. Bennett, you said that perfectly. I think that message would ideally be relayed to everyone out there, whether you're an experienced healthcare glassware producer or someone. I think what you said in continuing the innovation and collaboration is really my message, and I think that this is a product that I strongly believe in. I think Google's made the right decisions thus far, and I just hope that people continue to collaborate to create a better product and improve patient care.
well, one thing I'm aiming for, Dr. Patel, is have a regular hangout, at least once a week, to give people the option to drop in, to say what's happening, to kind of bring the community together, if possible. But it's not easy. Folks are busy. But maybe I'll let you know. We'll try it. I'll let you know if we're going to have one of those, and you can drop in if you want to drop in.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, guys, and
So,
very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John.
Okay, good night.
All right. Good night.